This is Coach Lee, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about radio silence. Take a second and click the subscribe button below so that you can be notified when I have more content that's helpful to your situation, and that includes attraction and relationship dynamics. Now, we're going to talk about radio silence. Radio silence is often used synonymously with the no contact rule. True radio silence is a slightly different strategy than no contact to get your ex back. No contact and radio silence are both similar in that what they do is they use your absence to let your ex truly experience the breakup, miss you, see that they don't want the breakup, see that you played a role in their life, and to basically wonder why you're not chasing them. It helps them go ahead and get through that relief period right after the breakup where they are dead set on breaking up with you. They're relieved that they got such a difficult, awkward thing over with, and they're feeling good about themselves. If you stay away from them, it helps them get past that period quicker so that they can move in to the next stage, which is curiosity. They're curious why you haven't been reaching out to them. What are you doing? Why they haven't heard from you? Because they're not used to not hearing from you. And they probably expected you to chase them in some way, to go after them, to try to fight for them, to try to talk them into staying in the relationship or giving it another chance. And so when you don't, it surprises them. And so they're curious. But because they're thinking about you and trying to figure it out, that will often lead to the next stage, which is concern, which can turn into fear. And there's sort of a transition phase called preoccupation, which is where they can't stop thinking about you, wondering what you're doing, and it gets a little ridiculous. And usually that goes hand in hand with the concern and the fear that maybe you're moving on. Maybe they've lost you and blown it with you, and maybe they couldn't get you back even if they wanted to. And that's what makes them start wondering if they do want to, if the breakup was the right decision. Because really, when you stay there and keep bugging them, they don't get to experience the breakup. They have a safety net because they feel like they could get you back right away if they wanted you, that you were available and willing and desperately wanting to get back with them. So there's nothing for them to worry about. They don't experience any kind of loss. There's no consequences to their actions. And that's just not real life. It's very important that people feel the consequences of their actions. And so you must let them feel the consequences of the breakup in order to help them see that they don't want the breakup and they want you back. So it's very important to back away and go into no contact. Now, what makes no contact different from radio silence? No contact simply means this. You don't reach out to your ex. If they reach out to you, you don't ignore them, because that would make you a jerk. You respond, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to kill the momentum. If they're reaching out to you and you ignore them 2 or 3 times of that, and they're going to stop. And I've seen it so many times where a client schedules a coaching call with me and tells me that their ex has reached out to them and that they just ignored them, didn't respond to the text, didn't answer the call, and now they haven't heard from their ex in 2 months. The reason is because their ex is tired of being ignored, tired of being rejected, and they think, good grief, I'm not going to keep putting up with this ego shot. I'm not going to look stupid. I'm not going to look ridiculous contacting this person only to be ignored. And so they finally stop for their own ego, but also because they figure since you're not answering their calls, they have no avenue to get to you. There's no way to reach you, that you are unreachable, you don't want to be talked to, and they move on. Ignoring your ex helps them move on. If you want to help your ex move on and be a good friend in that way, ignore them when they reach out to you. If you want your ex back, don't ignore them when they reach out to you. And so in those two things, in those two general parts of the concept, no contact and radio silence are very similar. However, what makes radio silence different than no contact is this. In no contact, many times I will suggest to my clients who are trying to get their ex back, go out with your friends, go to a nice restaurant, go skating, go rock climbing, go hit balls at a driving range, something like that. Take pictures, take lots of pictures of you in groups of friends and post it on Facebook showing you're having a good time. Don't overdo it. 1 every 2 or 3 days at the most. Don't overdo it, and don't make it look like this is just the greatest party in the history of the world and that you feel no remorse and everything's perfect. You don't want them to quite feel it that way, but you do want them to see that you're socializing, you're hanging out with friends, you're having a good time, that your life is good, you're strong, and that you can survive them dumping you. That's what we want them to see. Now, you should not post a picture of you out on a date with somebody a week or two after the breakup, or even longer than that, really, simply because you don't want to look like they meant so little to you that you could replace them right away. Because contrary to what some people who like this revenge type of theory to get your ex back, that will also often help your ex move on, because they will figure that they must not have meant that much to you anyway if you're already dating somebody else. Or they could think, maybe he or she was dating this person while we were dating. Maybe they were cheating on me. And so it's a surefire way to push your ex away by posting romantic pictures of you with somebody else. It might make them jealous, but it's also going to make them far less likely to contact you because they don't want to reach out and be rejected. And if you have somebody else, that's probably what they think is going to happen. And again, I wouldn't say this if I hadn't seen it. I get that the theory sounds nice. Yeah, I'll post a picture of me with somebody romantically to make my ex jealous and they'll want to come back to me. I get the theory, but practically speaking, it sure has turned a lot of exes away and the person never heard from their ex again. So I'm being honest with you. I'm sharing this information with you because I care and I want you to be able to get your ex back. So heed my warning on that. So far, no contact has been very similar to radio silence. But in radio silence, you don't post pictures of yourself on social media. You disappear in more ways than you would with no contact. In no contact, I will often say disappear, with a few exceptions, like those pictures of you with friends and out with groups that you might post on social media. However, with radio silence, your disappearance act becomes even greater. It takes on an expanded role. You don't post on social media. You take a fast from social media. You don't post pictures of you. You don't post status updates. You don't like anything. It's as though you have disappeared from the face of the earth. That's the radio part. With a radio, you are surrounded by speakers where you can hear from all sides. And therefore, radio silence is as though you have disappeared everywhere. Your ex cannot find out any information on you. And I have definitely seen it work. I see it as simply a more extreme version of no contact. But the theory behind it is that your ex becomes even more curious because they can't find anything about you. And they become a little bit desperate in their preoccupation of you during that stage because they can't just run to social media and see what you're up to. They can't watch your stories on Instagram. Literally, it's as though you have disappeared, as though you were never there. Of course, it's not quite that extreme. They can look at old pictures, but that will drive them even more crazy because they'll want an update. And it won't happen right away. They'll check here and there and they'll notice nothing new's happening. And that makes them extremely curious and they have an itch basically that only you can scratch. And so that puts a magnifying glass on no contact, and it can often be helpful to add that to no contact to really put the pressure onto your ex. However, you do give up the ability to show that you can move on some, to show your strength, to show that you have friends, to show that you can socialize, that you're out having a good time. And that can be helpful as well. So sometimes I recommend mixing it up. You go into no contact and you post much less on social media. You allow days to go by, 3, 4, before you post on social media. Now, if you normally post every 3 or 4 days, try doubling it. And when you do, maybe then you post a picture of you out with a group having fun. But you definitely shrink back on your social media activity. And so you can go through periods of radio silence. And that way you get a little bit of the best of both worlds. So it's not something where I would say you either do radio silence or you do no contact. I recommend doing no contact for a while and then taking time to do radio silence in the midst of doing no contact. And so you divide it up into sections where you do radio silence and there's no updates anywhere that they can find about you. And that includes talking to their friends, which is something that I would also say during just standard no contact, that you don't talk to their friends, especially about them. If you do see their friends, it's hi, how are you? Don't bring up their name. Don't ask about them. Ask how they're feeling or anything like that. You pretend that they don't exist. If their friend brings them up, you listen and then change the subject casually. And yes, this includes your friends. Do not talk about your ex to your friends because you would be surprised how many times I've spoken to people whose friends ended up talking to somebody else who knew somebody who told the ex. And all of a sudden now you've erased a lot of what you accomplished in no contact and creating that mystery, allowing them to wonder if you're moving on or if you have the strength to move on. We don't want that to happen. So apply radio silence to their friends, to social media, to anywhere they could get an update about you as best you can. Obviously, you won't be able to eliminate everything. If you talk to your parents and somehow your ex hears from your parents something, sometimes that happens. That's why it's so key to be selective about who you talk to and to ask them to be quiet about it and not to talk about what you're sharing with them. So that's the difference between no contact and radio silence to get an ex back. And they are both very effective. And when you simply go into one and into the other and just go back and forth between the two, it can be even more effective. However, don't underestimate the techniques of simply posting yourself on social media with groups of friends. That's a great thing to do, not just to get your ex back, but also for those friends involved, that they can see that you appreciate the time with them and that you're having fun and that you are somebody that they can socialize with. That kind of stuff is fun. That's the good side of social media. And so don't simply take it all away, but go through periods of radio silence. And again, radio silence is simply disappearing wherever you can so that your ex is extremely curious about what's going on with you and they can't get any information. And this drives them crazy lots of times, and I don't mean crazy literally, I just mean they become preoccupied trying to figure out what's going on with you, wanting an update because they were used to having you in their life basically daily, maybe even hourly, with people who text so much. And that's not a good thing, but that's for another video. But when they're used to that and all of a sudden they can't get any information, not any, and they're used to you updating your statuses and you're simply not, it can be pretty strong. It can be pretty powerful, and it can be a piece that helps you get your ex back. My emergency breakup kit goes into this and other matters of getting your ex back very well. It's extremely effective and very powerful if you've been broken up with. You can get more information about my emergency breakup kit at myexbackcoach.com, or there's a link in the description below. You can also schedule a coaching call with me at myexbackcoach.com. And this has been Coach Lee with myexbackcoach.com. Thank you for watching.